Welcome back to Dishing You Well. I hope everyone's blessed and doing well. The holidays are basically a few weeks from now, and I got you guys prepared and covered as I promised. Tonight, I have a staple for you guys that most of us are looking forward to in a few weeks. What I'm going to be showing you guys how to make tonight is a simple, easy candied yams. There's plenty of candied yam recipes out there. A lot of them tend to be a little more difficult than they need to be, but I'm going to show you how simple it is for you to prepare candied yams for your family for the holidays. And we're going to get right into the ingredients. Right here I have 3 pounds of fairly small candied yams. I bought these in a bag. You can buy them in the single inside of the bushel or the basket. You can pick them out yourself. You definitely want to make sure that your candy yams have a darker color. You want to stay away from the lighter colored candy yams. At my local market, they didn't have a lot of options, so I just bought the ones in the bag so I can show you guys. But I have around 3 pounds of small candy yams today. I'm going to be making a fairly small pan. So for this recipe, if you're making a larger pan, you can double or triple it. So what you're going to need is your candy yams, of course. You're going to need vanilla extract. You're going to need cinnamon. You're going to need 1 cup of light brown sugar. You're going to need a half a cup of granulated white sugar. You're going to need 1/3 cup of orange juice, 1 stick of salted butter, nutmeg, and around 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. And believe it or not, that's pretty much all the ingredients you're going to be needing. Now that that's out of the way, let me let you guys know how you're going to prepare your candy yams. I'll show you exactly the size you want to cut them, even though it doesn't really matter, but you definitely want to make sure that your candy yams are cut the same size. And I'll show you how I'm going to cut mine now. Let's go into that. All right, so I have my sweet potatoes cut up. You want to cut them up into 1-inch slices. As you can see, it doesn't need to be perfect, of course, but I've cut mine into 1-inch slice rounds. And you want to make sure that they're not cut too thin because you don't want it to turn into mush quickly. You want them to be able to withstand the syrup and the baking time. So you don't want them too thin, not too big. Just 1-inch pieces will be perfect. So I just wanted to let you guys know that I've cut them into the 1-inch pieces and I've thoroughly rinsed them with cold water. And now I'm going to show you guys exactly how to prepare them to bake them. Let's go. All right, so in this bowl, I'm going to get the dry ingredients mixed just so everything can be evenly distributed. I have 1 heaping tablespoon of cinnamon and a half a tablespoon of nutmeg in this bowl. And to that, I'm going to add the 1 cup of light brown sugar and a half cup of white sugar. And you want to go ahead and mix that as even as possible. You want to make sure that all of it is completely combined. That's important because when we go and season our sweet potatoes, we want to make sure that every portion gets a little bit of everything. We don't want to be stingy to nobody. So go ahead, mix this thoroughly, and when I come back, we'll go right into seasoning the yams and get these bad boys in the oven. All right, so right now I've cubed my 1 stick of butter to small. This is the size you want to cube it to. You can't cube it smaller, but you just want to make it small enough so you can distribute it throughout the dish. And I do have my dry seasonings all to the side, and you want to go right in, and you want to start sprinkling your dry seasoning in. Don't worry about it being evenly covered yet because we're gonna stir this a few times throughout the cooking process. You want to go ahead, drop in your cubed butter. Try and get your butter throughout the dish. You don't want it to just be on one side, so you want to make sure that each side has a little bit of butter. Go ahead, take the rest, give it a sprinkle. Again, try and cover as much as you can. Don't worry about everything getting covered, because we're going to go in throughout the cooking process and we're going to do some stirring. So now that we have the dry ingredients, we have our butter in the dish, I'm going to come back and show you how we'll incorporate the rest of the ingredients just before we put it in the oven. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to sort of make sort of a slurry. We're going to take the 1/3 cup of orange juice, dump it in the bowl. We're going to go ahead and dump the couple of tablespoons of 2.5 tablespoons of corn starch, dump it in the bowl. And we're going to dump we're going to dump 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract in there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stir this. We're going to make sort of like a slurry when you're making a gravy, but we want it to thicken a little bit. If we would have dumped the cornstarch right inside of the sweet potatoes, we would have ran a risk of it clumping up and not being able to be distributed. The same way with the vanilla extract. I don't like to dump it in drizzles because it just feels like it won't get on every portion evenly. So once we've stirred that up, we want to go in. And also, you want to go ahead, you want to actually add 1 pinch of salt. You can't, I use salted butter so you don't need to, but if you use unsalted butter, you want to go ahead and add a pinch of salt to this also. And you just want to stir it in. Once you've stirred it in, you want to just move it around a little bit. Don't worry about it not being able to stir completely. And what that orange juice is going to do is going to break down your sweet potatoes. The acid in the orange juice is going to break down your sweet potatoes, and it's also going to give you a beautiful flavor. So now that we have that done, what we're going to do is we're going to cover this. I'll show you what that looks like, and we're going to set it in the oven. I'll show you exactly how long we want it to stay in. Alright, so we want to cover our sweet potatoes completely. And we want to punch a few holes in the top just so some of the steam can escape. And we want to put this in the oven on 350 for a complete total cooking time of 1 hour and 20 minutes to 1 hour and 30 minutes. But after every 30 minutes, you want to go in and give it a stir. So the first 30 minutes, I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like once we do our first stir. Be right back. All right, so after half an hour, I removed it from the oven. As you can see, it's nowhere near done, but at this point, you're able to move the juices around more. So try and get every bit of the sweet potato coated, so you can just juggle them around to make sure that every piece gets saturated. And at this point, we're going to recover it and we're going to place it back in the oven for another 30 minutes. When I come back, I'll show you exactly what that looks like. All right, so 30 minutes later. So now our yams have been in the oven for around an hour. As you can see, it's rendered a lot more juices. And you can see that now we have our syrup formed. And that's what we're looking for. We want to make sure that we have a syrup formed in the bottom of the pan. It's not done yet. We still have 20 to 30 more minutes left. So what you want to do at this point is, to know if your yams are ready, you want to make sure it's fork tender. So you'll take a fork. As you can see, it is fork tender, but we still want to give it 20 more minutes. So what you can do is, you go ahead, cover this bad boy back up loosely, meaning you don't have to seal all the ends. We're going to throw this back in the oven for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, we're going to take it out and it's going to be perfectly done. Be right back. All right, so 20 minutes later, we removed our yams from the oven. As you can see, our yams are completely done. You can see how fork tender it is. You can see how it breaks apart with the fork. That's how we know it's done. You can see how dark that syrup is, that delicious flavor. And as you can see, that orange juice has rendered a delicious, flavorful syrup, and that's what we're looking for. I noticed that I didn't be as precise with the measurements as I should throughout this tutorial, but I will make sure that in the description box I will put the exact measurements. I mean, I've been cooking for a long time, and a lot of old school cooks will tell you we cook by sight, but just so I can make sure that you guys do get the perfect candied yam recipe, I will place the exact measurements inside of the description box. And yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys are pretty set for this holiday season, as I promised. When I come back, I'll plate these bad boys and show you what that looks like. Be right back. There we have it. Our delicious candy yam made to perfection. And how easy was that? And we all know we can't have candy yams with our macaroni and cheese. So you definitely want to make that pair. As you can see, they're tender, flavorful, not too much syrup, but just enough syrup to make it delicious. As always, I want to thank you guys for spending this time with me in my kitchen. I do have a whole bunch of treats for you guys, especially leading up to the holiday season and the new year. I have a lot of treats waiting for you guys. Again, I always look forward to your comments and your tremendous amount of support. And I'm gonna leave you guys with this. As always, I'm dishing you well.